audience. Hi, hello, how are you? I hope you're having a great day today. So, here's the tea. For this video, I was going to film a knit with me. I was gonna film me knitting and telling stories. If you're new to the channel, that's something I do sometimes. I knit and I tell stories. Unfortunately for me, I haven't knit since I moved into this house a few months ago, and my knitting stuff
is missing.
I have no idea where it is. We haven't fully unpacked our front porch. Our front porch has kind of just become somewhat of a dumping ground, and we haven't fully unpacked our attic, which has also become somewhat of a dumping ground. So my knitting is somewhere in there, and you know what's so crazy? I don't have time to go find it because I have a million other things to do. So instead of a knit with me story time, I thought we could just do a good old-fashioned story time. Like Tana Mojo who? I only know Smokeyglow. So today's video, I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about some of my funniest music festival stories. If you don't know, I go to music festivals pretty regularly. I definitely do more big festivals, not necessarily like indie smaller festivals. Like I go to Govball and Firefly and a few other ones, and I've gone to smaller ones, but for the most part I'm a little bit mainstream. I'll fully admit it, like I'm mainstream. Usually they have lineups that I really like, and I feel like it's a decent price for the amount of artists you get to see. My boyfriend also loves going to music festivals, so we love to go together. We're planning on a couple this year. We might do some like one days because Red Hot Chili Peppers are playing at Boston Calling, and we have to go to that. That's like a non-negotiable. So we're probably gonna do a mix, and I'm like going to Taylor Swift. It's gonna be a music festival filled summer. And because I'm kind of sad that it's winter and it's cold and I don't really have any like happy summer memories going on right now, I thought I would make a list of all the really funny things that have happened to me at music festivals. And this is only a brief list. Like this was like the top six funniest stories. Some of them are like not funny, some of them are kind of scary, but like looking back on them I can laugh, as you do with life, you know. But at the time I was mad or like scared or stressed because I think music festivals, it's interesting because it's only like Firefly for example, it was like 5 days of my life, but like I feel like a lifetime happened in those 5 days, and there's some very good stories. So let's just do it. The very first story I want to tell is probably my favorite, and I fondly call this story "The Earth Ate My Boyfriend." So for those of you that have never been to like a camping festival, which is where you go and you like literally live there for like 5 days and you camp, we did that at Firefly, which is a music festival in Dover, Delaware, and it's pretty close to us. We drive down. We're not really going there anymore because they got bought out by the guy who owns Coachella, but we used to go to Firefly, and I don't know how all camping festivals are, but for this one in particular, there's like a hub where you can buy very overpriced materials for camping if you forgot anything. There's also where the bathrooms are. There's some food vendors, and there was a tent at this particular one that had a phone charging station. It was like this massively huge phone charging station where you could just plug in your phone and charge it, because that's probably one of the biggest, I don't want to say problems because it makes it sound very like first world problems, but like one of the biggest challenges with camping festivals is how are you supposed to charge your phone. And so we utilized those features because it helped like charge our phones, so we had phone power. So we were at one of those charging ports, and it was under this big like canopy-esque tent. I think there were also goats, and it was very late at night, and we had just left the concert. I believe we had left, who did we leave? We left someone's concert. I think it was an EDM person. We'd left their concert a little early because we wanted to get back early, because if you get back early from the concerts, you can like shower and be ready for bed, and we had been done for the day, so we were like, we're gonna go shower at these showers, and then we're gonna charge our phones for a little bit, and then we'll go back to the tent. I was sitting at the porting thing, and I was sitting at the charging station with both of our phones, and they're charging. And Charles was like, I need to go and get, I wish I could like had a picture of this. Charles was like, I need to go get some water. Like I want to go get a bunch of waters or something. What did he need? Oh no, Charles was like, I want to go get like a portable charger, which you could buy those too. They were extremely expensive, but we needed one. So he was like, I'm gonna go get a portable charger that we can charge now, so tomorrow during the day we'll have a portable charger to charge our phones. And I was like, okay, awesome. So how he had to get from where we were sitting to the tent that sold all of the overpriced camping supplies, the tent was probably about 100 yards away from us, okay? Maybe 150 yards. So he's like, I'm gonna go get that. So I'm like, okay. And I'm on my phone, I'm just like hanging out. I'm literally exhausted because I've been living in the woods for a few days. Like, I'm exhausted. And he's walking. And this is important to note for the story, but it's like, actually, I'm not like doxing him. He's already talked about it on the channel, but Charles has a disability where his legs, it's kind of a form of muscular dystrophy, but basically his feet go like this. They drop. They don't like correct themselves. He doesn't have the muscles to properly like pull his foot up so it can stay flat. So his foot drops. So he wears these leg braces that helped correct that issue and help him be able to walk and not be in pain all the time. And the reason that's important is because when he walks, there's like a clicking noise. It's like click, 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 which I get very used to, but he makes a noise when he walks. And so I could hear the clicking, and I'm hearing it getting farther away, and I'm sitting there on my phone, and then I just hear it abruptly stop. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, why did that just stop? Because normally it'll fade away, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't just stop. So I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. And I look into the darkness, and I see him, and it looks like he's sitting on the ground. And I was like, why is he sitting on the ground? And I was like, did he fall? Because sometimes he falls. So I was like, did he fall? Like, is he okay? So I go to get up, and these other two women who had been closer to him than I were already like going towards him. And I was like, what is going on? So I go up to him. What had happened was it had been raining really, really bad the first like couple of days before we got there. It stopped raining once we got there, but it was pouring rain the days leading up to this. And because there were so many big construction trucks moving in all of this infrastructure, like moving in the bathrooms, moving in, they had left these massive tire treads in the grass where they had been moving stuff in and out. So there were these big tire treads. And because it was pitch black, Charles stepped into one of these tire treads. And I kid you not, I am not exaggerating even the slightest. He got sucked into the earth up to his upper thigh. Like, my boyfriend is over 6 feet tall. He was halfway with one leg into the ground. Like, I guess there must have been some sort of like sinkhole under where the tire treads already were from the rain. And so he literally stepped on it thinking it was just gonna be a tire tread and got sucked into the earth, like, and couldn't get out. Like, he was literally completely stuck up to his thigh because his brace is getting caught. There's like suction with the brace, and also he was just in there, like, and he has big feet too, so once he was in, he was like couldn't get back out, and he was completely stuck. He was stuck in the earth. He got sucked into the ground, and I got over to him and I was like, oh my god, what happened? I thought he got hurt, so I was like, oh my god, what happened? And then I saw what had happened, and I was laughing so hard, and the two women were trying not to laugh, but we were all like, what do we even do? Like, he literally could not get out. And so we're all trying to, like, me and these two other women who were so nice, we're all trying to like pull him out, and it was just not working. So he ended up having to literally sink himself even more, so he was waist deep with the ground. And one of his legs isn't stuck. So one leg is like up here by his chest, and the other one's completely stuck in the ground. He ended up having to sink even more, so he was like waist deep to the ground, sit on the ground, and then use that leverage to pull himself free. When I tell you he was covered in mud, I cannot stress enough how absolutely destroyed. His braces were destroyed. His shoes were destroyed. That's the last time he ever wore that pair of shoes. The shoes were destroyed. His braces were destroyed. He was literally, his entire leg just covered in chunks of earth. And I was laughing. I couldn't help it because literally it's so comical to me. I so wish I had a picture, but it was just so comical that he literally, like, the earth opened up and just swallowed him whole. Like, I literally couldn't believe it. It's actually a blessing that we were able to get the braces out because those braces are literally so expensive. So I'm happy we were at least able to save the brace, and they're plastic, so they were easy to clean off. But his shoes were destroyed, and he was the dirtiest I have ever seen him in my entire life. We didn't get a portable phone charger either. He didn't complete the mission afterwards. So that was the first funny story. I thought that one was really good. The next story is not so funny, but I want to tell it anyway because it's a lesson. So normally, because Firefly is like a 4-day festival, and usually people, the way we did it was we got there a day early so we could have camping, like campsites that were closer to the actual festival, so we didn't have to walk as far. That was kind of like our game plan, and that's what we did every year. And so on Sunday, when the final performance happens, usually a lot of people who live in Delaware or live in like Pennsylvania or Maryland, they leave Sunday night and they just drive home that night, which is fine. You're allowed to do that. By Sunday night, you're allowed to leave the campgrounds. You're not really allowed to leave during other times. They don't want cars just driving through the campgrounds. I'll put up a picture of what the campgrounds look like so you can kind of get an idea, because it's like in rows, okay? So our neighbors on both sides of us this one time had left already. They packed up, they didn't clean their stuff because apparently people don't understand how saving the environment works. But they packed up all their stuff, so we had no campsites on either side of us. So it was just us. So we had a little tiny tent that was our friend Denzel. He was sleeping in it. We had me and Charles's tent, and then Charles's brother was sleeping in his car, and we had another car because we had two sites. We had another car where his friend was sleeping in that car. We're all just going to sleep. It had to be like 3 in the morning. And this story, I wasn't actually awake for it, but I've been told this story. Because I didn't wake up, thank God. But all of a sudden, I guess at like 3 in the morning, a person decided they wanted to leave who was intoxicated. And they decided that instead of going through the row and then going out the safe way, they were just gonna drive through the field full of tents of people sleeping. So at 3 in the morning, our friend Denzel, who was on this side, a truck like zoomed right past his tent, almost hit Charles's brother's car, which was right in front of the tent, and zoomed past Denzel's tent where he was his head was like right there. Denzel said he was probably a foot away from his head. Truck just zooming through this field full of people, a drunk driver full of people who are in tents. And he actually hit our neighbors like trash and exploded the trash everywhere. He hit everything. He almost hit Angela's car. And it was just like, made me not ever want to go back. That experience like truly makes me not want to go back to music festivals unless I'm sleeping in a car, because that kind of leads me to some of the other things that happened that week. This kind of really turned, the week I had at Firefly the last time I went actually really turned me off to Firefly in general. People just get, a lot of kids who are from Dover, because you don't have to be 18 to go. I think you have to be 16 and up to do the camping. So a lot of like local kids that live in Delaware or live in other places close, like drive down as friends, and it's their first real time being unsupervised in a place where they have easy access to alcohol. And so people get just obliterated, and it's honest, like to a point of obnoxiousness. And I think for me, it's not even that like, oh, I don't drink, so I'm not okay with other people drinking. My friends and I go out all the time and I like DD them, and I have no issues with that. It's teenagers who literally have no idea what they're doing in an unsafe environment getting plastered that like really bothers me. We had this group of guys that were at the end of our row. They were like right on the corner, so anytime anybody had to walk into the festival, they had to pass these guys. And they had this freaking truck, this black truck. And on the first day, I saw a kid who was very obviously like 17 on top of this truck, just chugging this liquor bottle. I think it was like a vodka bottle, chugging this vodka bottle. And I'm like, oh, these guys are gonna be so annoying. I can already tell, because they were young, like frat dude types. Like I just could tell they were gonna be so annoying. And then as the weekend progressed, at one point their entire windshield of their car got smashed in because one of them fell on top of it, so it got smashed in. They were letting people take liquor bottles and chucking it at this truck. They were like smashing the windows of the truck. By the end of the weekend, there was not a single piece of glass left in the windows. Like the glass of all the windows were broken out. The glass in the mirrors were broken out. I'm pretty sure one of the mirrors was completely off. The truck itself had so many dents and dings, and people were just trashing it all week. These people, it was their car, and they were just trashing it all week. And at the last night, we passed by their site again, and we're like, oh, there's the truck. And they have a little hat on it that's like donations to help fix the truck.
You mean the truck you destroyed?
The truck you ruined? There was other instances of like, I was at the Kendrick Lamar concert because he was there, and I didn't want to be in the crowd, like up front, just because I get really bad anxiety. And if I'm going to be in a crowd for a show, I want it to be a more like chilled crowd. I don't want to like be hype in a crowd. It's not my thing, but my boyfriend loves it. So he went right up to the front for Kendrick, and I kind of just stayed in the back, and I was just jamming with the space that I needed to feel comfortable. And I went into the bathrooms, which we had had these like, they're called spruce up packages. We had this spruce up package where you could go to bathrooms that weren't porta potties, which honestly worth every penny. Like, I know that's the part of the festival experience or whatever, but like it was worth it for us because like just to have it, first of all, they were air conditioned. So the brief reprise of like having air conditioning was fantastic because it was so hot. And also they provided little like places where you could do your hair, but we just used it to charge our phones because it was an electrical outlet. So it was worth the money for us, honestly. And they were way more accessible. So it was worth it overall for us to do that. So I went into this spruce up bathroom, the really nice one, and I see this girl and she's like, I told this story after it happened, but I feel like I want to tell it again because it really scares me the way that people don't look out for their friends in these types of situations. So this girl is just absolutely plastered, like cannot keep her head up, is falling over, can't open her eyes, like can't talk. And I see her and her friend, and I was sitting there and I like sat down to like, I was kind of creeping, I'm not gonna lie, because I got nervous because earlier that day a girl had actually died at the festival. We got news that a girl she literally threw up in her sleep and she wasn't on her side and she died. And it was horrible. It was so ominous. It was so sad because nobody should go to a music festival and die. That's just crazy. And so we were all kind of like on edge from that. So me and this other girl were like kind of keeping tabs on the situation because you could tell that both of us were like knew what was up. We knew she needed like an EMT and to go to the drunk tent. That's what they call it when they like give you the fluids and everything. We knew she needed to. But her friend, I hear her friend be like, okay, Brittany, I don't know her name, but she was like, okay, Brittany, we're just gonna leave you here while we go watch Kendrick. And it was this girl's boyfriend and her best friend. And they just left her. They literally just left her. And I said to them, I was like, you cannot leave her. I was like, she's not okay. They were like, no, she's just gonna sleep it off. She'll be fine. And I was like, no, you cannot leave her here. Like, you cannot leave your friend right now. She is not okay. Because number one, so many bad things could happen. Like, she could be throwing up. She could get really sick. Alcohol can literally kill you. She could have been on any number of drugs. I have no idea what she was doing. And also, just let's take into consideration that somebody could easily take advantage of this girl in a situation like this because nobody else here knows her. So nobody knows if who she's supposed to be with, who she's not supposed to be with. And her boyfriend and her best friend were just gonna leave her because they didn't want to miss Kendrick Lamar. And I was so mad. And I was like, I turned to the boyfriend, I was like, you need to go get an EMT. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're not gonna leave your girlfriend in this bathroom. Even though it's a nicer bathroom, you're not just gonna leave her here. Like, that's so screwed up. And I was so mad. And then they left anyway, didn't listen to me. So me and this other girl had to like help her. And this girl has no idea who I am. She's like confused, obviously, as I would be too. But I think, and we ended up getting an EMT and like she was fine. But it just like scares me how, because when I was drinking in college, when I used to drink, my friends always took care of me. And I was obnoxious at times. Like, they always made sure I was okay and always made sure I was like safe, or at least they thought I was safe. Like, they would have, I cannot imagine my friends just like leaving me alone in a bathroom at a music festival with 500,000 people and just like to go see Kendrick Lamar. Like, I can't imagine my friends doing that to me. So just like, if you're gonna go to these festivals, this is like kind of not a funny story, but like, just be safe. Make sure you go with people who actually care about you, because you shouldn't have random people in the bathroom like me saving you. That's just not what you need. Okay, this one's also kind of funny. So the first year that we ever went to Firefly, the camp like behind us, because you were kind of back to back with tents the way it's set up, the camp behind us had this kid who was so drunk the whole weekend, but he like handled it. Like, he could still like talk and be coherent and everything, which was, I appreciate that. And he was like, he introduced himself as Bobby Flay. He was like, I'm Bobby Flay. Nice to meet you. So we were like, oh, okay, Bobby Flay. Like, okay. At about 2 or 3 in the morning, this smell. And Charles and I are like in our tent and we're like, what is that smell? It smells like burning, kind of. What is that? But it didn't smell like anything like burning, like on fire. It just smelled like food was burning. So we were like, what is that? And so then all of a sudden we hear somebody from the tent behind us come out of their tent and they're like, Bobby, what are you doing? And he's like,
I'm cooking bacon.
We hear his friend be like, Bobby, no. And all of a sudden, this literal mushroom cloud explosion, not a mushroom cloud, but this massive fireball, we can see it through our tent, this fireball explosion occurs. And his friend is like, no, 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 no. Fireball of an explosion, literally right behind us. Like, we can feel the heat through the tent. And me and Charles are like ready to flee because I feel like tents would go up in flame really quickly. And then I heard like something happened and the flames stopped or whatever. But I guess we found out later that he was making bacon, but he didn't use any sort of like pan or anything. So he just poured oil onto like, cause you know how you use those little like cooking working kitchens when you're camping. He just poured oil or something onto this little convection oven, and it just freaking blew up. Like the flames went absolutely everywhere. Oh, that was so funny. Really dangerous, but like, please don't play with fire when you're drunk at a music festival. But also, like, looking back, just the fact that we heard it all happen. It's literally hysterical. Oh my gosh. See, it like wouldn't be funny if something bad happened, but because nothing bad, it's one of those situations that like you shouldn't do, but like it's still kind of funny that it happened. This is another one that actually doesn't include Charles. It was my first music festival I ever went to. I went to the Governor's Ball on Randall Island when I was 19 with all of my friends. We had so much fun. It was actually a horrible trip, and I could delve into why it was horrible, but I'm not here to put people on blast. But it was horrible for me because I had some horrible things happen with friends being horrible. But there was one particular experience that was very funny. The first night that we were leaving, we were all very drunk. This is back when I was still drinking. It was actually probably 2 months before I went to rehab. So we were all like drunk and we're trying to navigate our way home. We're trying to like, because the way that you're supposed to do it is there's like this footbridge that takes you to Randall's Island that you can walk across, and our hotel was right next to the footbridge. So we were like, all we have to do is go on the footbridge and then we'll get home. So none of us were worried about like being sober enough to navigate, because we were like, as long as one person remembers that we need to take the footbridge, we'll be fine. But as we were leaving, all of the employees were like, the footbridge is closed, you can't use the footbridge, you can't do it. And all of our phones are dead because we didn't know that this was gonna happen. So they're like, don't use it, you gotta go this way. So they navigated us, and we ended up in the middle of Harlem in New York City at like 2 in the morning, and none of us knew where we were going, and none of us knew how to like navigate our way to this hotel, because we were planning on taking the footbridge. We planned on getting there the same way, like we planned on going back the same way we got there. So I just remember me and my best friend were like holding him. We're a small town kids, so we're just all like freaked. We're like, what is going on? We're just walking through so clueless. My one guy friend, who's like normally he like kind of takes control of all these situations and he's like the person in charge, he has no idea what's happening. So if he doesn't know what's happening, we're screwed. It took us, I'm not kidding, it took us like 3 hours of walking before we were finally able to get back to our hotel and like go to sleep. It took us so long. The way that we went, and then the second night, literally we ordered like a $200 car and my friend just paid for it. One of my friends just paid for it. Ordered this like very expensive car service. Like it was like a Lincoln to take us back to the hotel. And then the third night, turns out footbridge was never closed. I don't know who was telling us that or why they were telling us that. Footbridge had been open the whole time. We could have just walked back on the footbridge, which granted was still like a mile walk, but it was better than like the 7-mile walk that we took through Harlem at 3 in the morning. That story is so funny. I forgot about that for so long, and then one of my friends brought it up really recently, and I was like, wow, that first Gov Ball was horrible for me, but like that story, hysterical. Like, loved it. Okay, the final story I want to tell is one that made me hate 21 Pilots. So I actually don't mind 21 Pilots music, but I've never been like a huge fan, but they were gonna be at Fireflies. So Charles and I had really wanted to see a band that was happening before them. Like so we were like, but they ended pretty closely around the same time that 21 Pilots started. So we were like, okay, we're gonna just see this band, finish with this band, and then walk over to 21 Pilots and just watch some of their set and then go back, because I think they were the closers that night. And so we're walking. How it was set up was there's these massive fields with like photo opportunities and picnic tables and food vendors in between any of the stages. So we are walking through this field, and all of a sudden I see this guy, and he is wearing a college graduation cap and gown, and he has a mask on that is a skeleton mask. Here's the thing. I have talked at length about my generalized anxiety and how nervous I get in these types of situations. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, this was very closely after some sort of event, a tragedy happened at a concert. Like it was very closely before or after a shooting. I can't remember if it was the Las Vegas shooting or if it was at the Ariana Grande concert that whole thing had happened. But this was definitely a time when like everyone was kind of on edge going to concerts. I still feel very on edge going to concerts just because of everything that happens, especially in America. It's like it's scary to do those things. It's not so scary that you don't go, but it's still kind of in the back of your head. Like I think everyone feels that way. A lot of people I talk to that go to those events feel that way. So we're walking through this field, and I see this guy, and he stops, and he just, because I was staring at him. But he stops and he's just like following me with his body. Like I'm walking and he's like following me, and I'm getting very scared because I get really scared in those situations. Like I have generalized anxiety. My mind instantly jumps to the fact that I'm gonna die. I can't help it. So I'm walking and I'm like, babe, look at this guy. And Charles looks over, and then all of a sudden we hear a gunshot. Everyone around us froze. Everyone around us froze. We heard screaming by the stage. And in my head, I'm like, this man who I just saw and is staring at me is about to kill me, which I understand is ridiculous. Like I totally get it. But everyone around us froze for a second. It was a second of just like heart sinking, horrible panic. And then everyone around us started running away from the stage. So we started running away from the stage. And for about 10 seconds, we all legitimately thought, because the music stopped at the stage, everyone at the stage was screaming. It sounded like scary screaming, and we were all like, everyone around where we were, which was farther back from where the stage was, just started running away from it because we thought something bad was happening. And everyone was like, oh my God, and we're running. And then everyone's kind of stopping, and we're like, look, because nothing's really happening besides our group of people is running. Nobody from the stage is running. So somebody was like, wait. And then we hear 21 Pilots start playing again. And we're like, what the fuck? 21 Pilots, like the idiot. This made me so heated. They literally put gunshot effects into their set in 2018. In America, they put gunshot noises into it. I feel like maybe if it was just me that overreacted, or me being scared that happened, or like whatever, like I would have felt like maybe if it was just me, that it's just my anxiety or whatever. Every single person around us was terrified. Every single person around us legitimately thought that there was a shooter at that festival, and legitimately thought something horrific was happening. Like every single person around us started running and started yelling and started getting very scared. And the only reason you would have known that gunshot effect wasn't something else was because it was, if you're closer to the stage, you can hear the music. It was timed with the music. So the people who were close to the stage knew what was going on and knew that it was part of their set. But when you were far away, you have literally no idea. All you are hearing is gunshot noises, so you're freaking out. So I was pissed. I was so mad. And then later on, when I went to a different Firefly, Eminem was the headliner. And a couple weeks before, he had performed at Bonnaroo, and he also had gunshot effects, and he got a lot of heat for it, because I think, like, I can understand from an artist perspective thinking like, oh, this is a sick effect. And I bet in a concert setting where you're the only artist playing and everybody is just watching you, I'm sure that is a kind of cool effect. But when you're in a setting where not everyone is paying attention to what you're doing, not everyone knows what's going on your part of the stage, because there's 6 other stages and tons of people in between, people who weren't even watching, all a person out of context hears is a gunshot. In the societal culture that we live in, it was genuinely scary. It was really scary. And it was also really, I was just pissed. And then they did it like 3 more times throughout the show. They kept having these gunshot effects. And I was just so mad and so annoyed by that. And it made me hate 21 Pilots. And now I don't like them. I don't like their music. I don't like them. I think that it's just such a culturally insensitive thing to do. Yeah, maybe I sound like a little snowflake right now, but like I truly have never been more afraid. Honestly, like that was probably one of the most scared I've ever been in my entire life, because I thought that something really bad was happening. But yeah, that's all my music festival story times. Overall, I really like music festivals. I feel like some of these stories were kind of negative, but I also feel like it's important to discuss the realities of some of them, because sometimes they do kind of suck. Like sometimes like if it rains or like if crazy stuff's happening, like sometimes they do suck, but sometimes they're fun. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Glowmas. Fa la 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 la. It's Glowmas. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right. You can go click on that link. You can register to vote, and you can take an active part in your democracy. It's what the cool kids do. If that link does not apply to you and you don't live in the United States, please make sure you're staying informed on what's going on in your part of the world, part of your country, using your voice in a positive way, because the world absolutely needs more of it. I don't know if I mentioned it, but today's candle of the day was cinnamon caramel swirl. This one has a cute little reindeer on it. It's adorable. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!